Hey folks, Grant Armour from the Outdoor Rec School here at the Twin Lakes Boat Ramp here in Robbinsdale. This is one of the Three Rivers boat ramps, lake access points, and you're going to notice something new behind me. Open water! That's right, the ice went out on a lot of the metro area lakes this last weekend, and if you're anything like me, that means you're starting to think about paddling. But it's still really early in the season and we need to keep ourselves safe. So here's a couple things to think about in that early season paddling. First and foremost, hypothermia is a really elevated risk. When we think about hypothermia, we are thinking about our bodies starting to lose their core temperature, which means we lose physical function, we lose cognitive function, and if it gets bad enough, people actually die from it. So we want to make sure that we're approaching our paddling in the early season with a lot of safety in mind. Great rule of thumb is the rule of 120 degrees. That means combine the air temperature with the water temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. If it does not equal 120 degrees, it means it's time to wear some cold water protection or stay off the water. Cold water protection means things like wetsuits or dry tops or dry suits. Wetsuits are made out of neoprene. Dry suits are made out of things like latex seals to keep you nice and dry, make sure that water can't get in. And then we also want to make sure that we're bringing resources like a spare change of clothes in a dry bag. This also has a towel in it, so that if I can get wet, I can bring my core temperature back to where it needs to be, keep myself nice and safe. I'm also always going to paddle with a life jacket on. This is also called a personal flotation device. It's going to keep me above the surface of the water. It's going to make sure that I can focus on getting myself safe instead of getting myself back to the surface of the water. When we hit cold water, our bodies have a gasp response. And if we don't keep our heads above the top of the water, that can mean a lung full of water. Really dangerous situation, really fast. I also want to make sure my boat stays floating. So boats should all have some sort of integrated flotation. If you're in a sea kayak, your bow and stern hatches at the front and the back should provide that flotation as long as they're sealed. If you're in a canoe, there's usually foam underneath the deck plates at the front and the back of the boat. If you're in a recreational kayak though, or a whitewater boat, you might need to add some flotation. This here is a flotation bag designed for whitewater kayaks. You can do the same thing using a beach volleyball or anything else you might have around that floats, but we want to make sure that if I tip my boat over and I end up in the water, that my boat is also going to keep floating. With it floating, I need to get the water out of it. So if I'm in a kayak, I'm going to use a bilge pump. If I'm in a canoe, I'm going to use a baler bucket. This one's just made out of an old detergent canister. But I gotta make sure that I've got ways to get that water out of my boat so that I can get back into it, float, and paddle away. Now, if you don't have a lot of practiced rescue skills, your best bet for staying safe is staying close to the shore. Sometimes the best rescue is simply swimming to shore, dragging your boat to shore. Always make sure that you're staying safe and that you're not going in an environment you're not prepared to rescue yourself from. Again, cold water is our biggest concern. Hypothermia is a real deal. Let's all make sure we're staying safe. Let's find the peace of the open water. I hope to see you all out there this summer. And if you've got the right equipment, the right know-how, make sure you've got a plan for who knows where you are on the water. Maybe we'll be seeing you out there before then. Bye, y'all.